So 2025 Burning Man is off to a rocky start. It looks like we've got flooding, sandstorms, electrocutions, and even the destruction of a building dedicated to orgies at Burning Man. Imagine that. Things started out chaotic as opening night. They had 45 mile per hour winds with 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Just a total whiteout conditions in this sandstorm that hit. They were talking about this going from like Phoenix. It was just this huge, massive sandstorm. But this article is from The Mirror, and Joel Lever wrote this a few days ago. But this is basically explaining what the storm did opening night. 50 mile per hour wind gusts and injuries, damaged campsites, and the gate into the community was temporarily closed. They closed it off where people weren't getting in. And then that's what happened initially. And then basically everybody's bottlenecking. Everybody shows up to get in later and it was bottlenecked. It was just kind of chaotic there at the beginning. But the event that's really caught headlines lately is, I guess, from the winds and the storm, this building was destroyed, okay? It's literally called the Orgy Dome. The building was just completely obliterated. This was a building dedicated to these activities, but the couches, they moved in dozens and dozens of couches into this complex, this building with a tent. And I'll just read some of this article. This article is fantastic. I didn't write this. I'm going to read this, but I agree with a lot of the points and some of the language in here. I'm going to read some of this. This is from The Cut by Emily Leiber. It is once again that time of year when self-proclaimed burners retreat to the dust-coated landscape that is Black Rock City, Nevada, to take copious amounts of drugs and barter for threesomes under the guise of community building. So what fresh hell hath Burning Man 2025 wrought? It's not disgraced, thinks co-founder Mickey Agrawal, handing out her breast milk for iced lattes. It's also not Paris Hilton's 2017 super sick 4-hour-long DJ set. This year, I regret to inform you that Burning Man's 22-year-old Orgy Dome has perished. Now, in case you weren't familiar with the infamous Orgy Dome, the concept is kind of self-explanatory. Couples have been exploring their sexuality with strangers since 2003 at these festivals. In order to enter the structure, participants have to fill out consent forms and apply hand sanitizer that are given the option to wear gloves for sanity purposes. The Guardian reports that nearly 5,000 people passed through the Orgy Dome last year. Gross. There's a lot of moresomes, more than 3 people participating, it says. This year, though, not so much. The Orgy Dome, fell victim to the high winds this week, not even one day into the festival, according to a video posted. It looks like the structure's main tarp blew away. So this thing was destroyed. The title of this article, by the way, is God Smote Burning Man's Orgy Dome, which I thought was hilarious. We should take these things seriously, but I love the language here. It's God smote. That's the past tense of smite, which is to strike a firm blow. I love the language here. So this event the last few years has had like flooding, and if it rains there, man, it's just like 2 to 3 feet of just like concrete, drying concrete. It's quicksand. You can't do anything about it. But this year, after the sandstorm, they got more flooding, and then a guy needed to be airlifted because he apparently stepped into a puddle, and I think it was lightning. I think it said it was lightning, but could have been electronics or something. But he was electrocuted because of the flooding. He stepped into a puddle. So we had that. One interesting thing that always catches my eye about this Burning Man is their 10 principles. They won't talk about like direct rules, morality, that kind of would draw comparisons to the Ten Commandments. And they don't want that. They want to distance themselves as much as possible from a biblical God. But I was running through these 10 principles and, radical inclusion, gifting, decommodification, spirit of gifting, radical self-reliance, radical self-expression, a lot of radicals, communal effort, civic responsibility, and leaving no trace. They try not to leave any litter behind, but I've heard that the cleanup efforts are just like hell on earth. It does not go. They try to create this utopian picture of everybody having, one of these tenets, civic responsibility, and it just turns into a gigantic mess that is ridiculous. But participation is another one, and immediacy. But they have these their own 10 commandments. It's so funny. They can't just. It's not enough to just say the moral law, we have no moral laws, because that would just invite unprecedented chaos. They know there has to be rules, but they don't, they want to just glaze it over and call it the 10 principles. It's their own 10 commandments. It's almost, it's an imitation of Christianity and Judaism with their 10 commandments, but it's instead of saying, and it always ends up as going the opposite way. Another one of these art installations was destroyed. This was kind of interesting. The dust storm actually blew away a Ukrainian artwork. It's called Black Cloud. And this artwork was meant to portray like the oncoming threat of war or global war. Just thought this was interesting. A lot of funny business with political stuff with Ukraine. I digress on that for now, but it's just kind of interesting that this 50-foot tall inflatable cloud art installation was just, I don't even know if they recovered it, but I guess it just, the winds just obliterated it and blew it away, completely away. I don't even know if they found it. And as far as I can tell, it looks like they're releasing articles today that are saying that Burning Man bounces back after storms with sun and smooth travel. So it's now business as usual. Everything's back on track. And the art for this article, this photo, was pretty cool too. I like that. I think a lot of this artwork is fascinating. But this one is like it's like a 15-foot tall mammoth. It's called The Reborn. It's an art installation at Burning Man. It's just kind of cool with all the talks about genetic manipulation and bringing back the mammoth and the things they're about to do with genetics and genetic engineering. I think they're supposed to bring back the mammoth. I know they brought back a dire wolf, which recently they did that, but they used the DNA of I can't remember. I think it was just regular wolves mostly. It's like 90% regular wolves, and they genetically manipulated that to happen. Yeah, I'll link the videos. I've made several videos about Burning Man and the symbolism. The first year, it's interesting because the first year I made a video, I believe COVID hit and they canceled Burning Man. The next year, there was flooding. It was either that next year they flooded like so bad, and then the year after that, everything kind of went off without a hitch and was fine. But you can kind of see it in the Google Trends, where each year there was everything was canceled a lot of those years. But I really dug into some of the occult symbolism. I'll link the stuff here and put it on the end screens coming up here. But let me know what you think. Is this just an excuse to come out to the desert and just act like a bunch of degenerates and do whatever they want and just discard the 10 commandments, make up their own laws? I mean, it seems like an extension of that. They want to come out here and worship themselves. That is, to me, is the core of this return of paganism. is it's not so much that they have this urge to just. I mean, it is interesting. It's these archetypes that are in our minds that they're kind of reaching back, and it's the gods of the ancestors. All that stuff plays into it, but it's ultimately about the rejection of responsibility. Because Judeo-Christian values call you into responsibility for your own actions, and this is just like the radical part of it is to just radically turn your back on that. In my opinion, that's what it is, and it's self-worship. It's the worship of the self. It's the elevation of the self to God status. That's what a lot of the Gnostics ultimately believe. This Christ consciousness, and they believe they've got some strange beliefs about Christ, and he was just one of a succession of infinite Christ. I don't want to say infinite, but many Christs to come. That we have this power to become a Christ, which I think is completely blasphemous and ridiculous. But this is kind of the things. I mean, but it plays out in the same type of patterns. We get these pagan motifs that reemerge, and it's so seductive to people because, and I can see it. It's very. These guys are creative though. I mean, these art installations are awesome. I mean, they're just awesome to behold, and I wouldn't be totally against going in and like walking around. May not be the best idea, but like it's just I don't want to give any money to this, give them any contribution, but yeah, let me know what you think. Is God smiting this Burning Man festival the last few years? Are these events just coincidence? Or are these messages from something higher? Some type of synchronicity or coincidence that's trying to tell us something, trying to warn us? Or do you just believe God, took his fist and smote this festival? Be interested to hear what you think, but thanks for hanging out for a little bit. I got tons more videos coming, and there may be more on this if anything interesting happens. So I will talk to you all later.